Mr. Former Prime Minister, now we have the Jerusalem Post conference here in April, and that will be the same month that we have the deadline to make peace in the Middle East, according to the American plan. Do you think that the Americans will succeed in bringing about an agreement between Israel and the Palestinians by the April 28th deadline?
I don't exclude the possibility that by April 28th there may be some general statement that both sides will not reject. Whether this will be the platform that will lead within a reasonable period of time to a peace agreement is a different question. That depends first on the wording of the general statement, and of course on the particularly with regard to the specific sensitive issues, which is the borders. For instance, if it says that the territorial issue will be resolved on the basis of 67s with minor swaps, what does 67 mean? Mm-hmm. 67 means the separation of Jerusalem into two capitals, one for the Palestinians, one for the State of Israel. Is this something that the Israeli government, the present Israeli government, can agree with or not? I am not certain. I don't know. But if it says so, then this is a general statement of far-reaching ramifications. And it remains to be seen whether it can be agreed. I think that the efforts which are made now is to try and narrow down the differences in order to be able to issue such statement. But since I'm not familiar with all the specifics, I can only say that I hope that Secretary Kerry will succeed in convincing the two sides, because I think that the interest of Israel is to continue negotiations, and I entirely subscribe to the efforts that I believe Prime Minister Netanyahu makes in order to continue the process. I'm not going now to argue about the specific positions, which may not necessarily be compatible with the general desire to make peace. But the emphasis of the need to continue negotiations is in itself a positive attitude, which I hope will find itself in the conclusion of this phase and with the American statement, and hopefully with the agreement on both sides.
Are you being kept up to date by one side or the other? Do you know what's going on?
No, I'm not. I can't be kept.
Are they consulting you, asking you for advice?
No, I don't. I'm not in a position, and I think it's too sensitive, and I'm not sure that the Americans, which are not always very happy with the what may be interpreted as seen as an intervention of the Israelis in the political arena in America, will want to be seen as if they are asking or consulting with those who have different opinions from the government and are not known to be supporters of the government, because why should they be blamed for or would put themselves in a position where they can be blamed by someone for sabotaging the political process here. And unfortunately, we have heard in the last few weeks so many statements against America by prominent Israelis that I think that this is certainly something that the Americans are conscious about.
They've gone too far in criticizing Kerry and Obama's efforts to bring about an agreement?
You know, it is voiced against Kerry. It is indirectly perhaps also said against President Obama. But I think in a more general term, it is voiced against America. I just heard that a few comments made by prominent members from coalition parties in a secret meeting, which was supposed to be off the record, with Ambassador Shapira. And I think that one of the members of the coalition asked Ambassador Shapira, what did the Americans do for Israel at all? And I think that this is entirely obnoxious and outrageous. Just imagine that there will not be an understanding by September, and that the Palestinians will try again their luck in the United Nations. And we all know that the overwhelming majority of members of the United Nations will be with the Palestinians. Who will we come to save Israel from a vote, if not the Americans? So how can we, that used this unbelievable American commitment to the security, safety, and the major interests of the State of Israel over the years, and particularly over the last few years when we really needed it because of the growing isolation of Israel, that supported us, how can we even question their commitment to the State of Israel? I think that this is really totally unacceptable, and I think that this is a terrible mistake. What is the interest of anyone to jeopardize the goodwill and the good spirit which characterizes the relations between Israel and the United States?
What do you think about Avigdor Lieberman sounding so different now than he used to, even when he was in your cabinet?
Well, you know, when he was in my cabinet, he didn't have to be heard at all in the sense that the very fact that he was in a government which negotiated seriously and intensely with the Palestinians over all the issues was a statement by itself. But I'm very happy of the appearance of change in the, at least in the manners and in the statements made by Secretary Lieberman. I think that Secretary Lieberman is far less extreme than what his image suggests, and that let's not forget that he wrote a book years ago in which he fundamentally agreed to the separation of the two parts of Jerusalem into a Palestinian part and an Israeli part, and he also said that if there is an agreement, he will vacate his house in the settlement Nokdim and comply with the agreement. So Lieberman has a particular interest in an attitude about the Arabs living in the State of Israel. One doesn't have to agree with him, and I disagree with him entirely on this. I think it's a mistake. But at this point, in comparison to some of the other ministers and members of Knesset, I think that he should be commended for at least lowering the tension that threatened the process of negotiations between us and the Palestinians, and I'm very happy about that.
And Netanyahu's behavior?
Also, look, the question is not the behavior. Netanyahu, I think, has ultimately understood that it's not in the interest of Israel to appear to be in some confrontation with America, and that he should change the volume of his own statements and that of his partners in the coalition. And I think that this is a more responsible approach, which I certainly approve of. Of course, yet the main question is, what is his specific position about some of the issues that can lead or can stop the process of negotiations. And there I haven't seen yet any change in his position. So while I respect the spirit of restraint which he has imposed on some of his ministers and the lack of statements recently by senior ministers against Senator Kerry, in my mind, one of the greatest friends of the State of Israel, you know, in many, many years, certainly one of the closest and the most supportive friends of Israel in the Senate for 29 years, with a 100% record in favor of the State of Israel. I think that he's the last person that we could criticize and should criticize, and rather than praise him for his efforts and for his passionate commitment to bring peace to Israel, which is our interest, we decided to make him a target. This is a mistake, terrible mistake.
Sorry, I have to continue back with the Netanyahu, though. Do you think he's crossed the Rubicon? Or are you sure that he hasn't?
That I don't know. I mean, that I don't know. You know, I read all kinds of interpretations and I read all kinds of different comments. I didn't have the distinct honor of being consulted with Netanyahu. I didn't speak with him in 4 eyes. I never heard his
When was the last time
present
you spoke
views.
to him?
I think maybe 4 years ago.
Wow.
Yes. So I don't know to say. I don't know to say. He may have crossed the Archon, but the question is whether this is enough.
Are you confident that the Obama administration will succeed in taking the steps necessary to prevent the nuclearization of Iran?
Look, first of all, there is an agreement, an interim agreement for the time being, a provisional agreement, but there is an agreement. And it appears at this point, according to the reports that we get, including from the inspectors of the IAEA representing the big powers, that there is some kind of a change. The fact is that the Iranians don't possess and don't have control of the amount of uranium needed in order to create a bomb, and that they have lowered the enrichment to the maximum of 3%, which is of course far, far, far different from what they did in the past. And they try to project a spirit of cooperation. I understand that they have indicted the senior minister for denying the Holocaust, which is also, I think, a certain signal of perhaps a changed attitude and a policy, which should, from their point of view, obviously, should endear them to the international community. So I think there is an agreement. The question whether the original agreement could have been different or not remains open. I don't know, maybe yes. I don't know. But the question is not what could have been done, but what we should do now.
Right.
And I think that the fact that the Prime Minister doesn't now talk anymore about specific dates and specific deadlines and so on and so forth, at least proves that he is giving a chance to the American efforts and the international community efforts to bring an agreement with the Iranians. Let's not forget that according to the original statements by the Israeli government, we have passed already by more than a year the target date that seemed to have been irreversible, in the sense that if we cross that deadline, then there is no way that we can stop the Iranians from building nuclear capabilities. I think perhaps our assessments now are somewhat different, and I certainly hope that Americans will do everything in their power. For the time being, I have no reason to think that they are not doing it. And I hope that they will continue in this direction. And they say time and again that there is nothing is off the table with regard to Iran. So the reapplication of sanctions, for instance, which were very painful to the Iranians, is still on the table, and other measures, including forceful measures, are on the table. So maybe it's too early to judge, but it's not too early to become hopeful that it indeed will move in the right direction.